What's up, squad? This is Brandon from the Bantu Sun. Thank you so much for joining me today. So, from an unlikely article, I thought it'd be really great to have a conversation about economics through philosophy, and in doing so, in practicality as well. The practicality is, as it was a fun little article, believed by Al Jazeera, about India declining camel population. And they talk about many reasons, a lot of it about the modern day society and not having the necessary use or utility for a camel. And like so many things, one of the great reasons, though, they actually attribute to the decline of their camels is from a law that was passed that pretty much banned the transportation, the possession or legal possession, or the killing or slaughtering of the camel. And the reason why I want to bring this up is because one of my great lessons in life is that people are people. And although we are high minded, we are finite beings that have, how should I say, we have desires, we have a nature, we have attractions, and we have hunger, we need to sleep. All of these things are inherent in the human condition. If you talk about a human being, you must attribute all these things. And of course, that comes with its good things, and it comes with some things that we may not find to be as flattering. And what that means in summary, though, is that because people have these attractions, these needs, these desires, what comes first at the end of the day, net sum, bottom line, is the fulfillment of interest to the individual. That interest. Now, whatever that interest may be, everyone has their own set of interests, but it's always that interest. And the reason why this is important is because people can be high minded, they want to be esteemed, and they may attribute certain things. For instance, I like to say elections is a great example, right? Everybody, a lot of people don't really relate, I feel, especially on a federal level. I think a lot of people vote for how they want people to see them after voting. So they might vote for the nicer candidate or the candidate that's more flattering, more kumbaya, but they do so because they don't think it affects their interests. Now, when the people find a candidate that they do affect their interests, regardless of how unsavory they can be, they'll vote for that person because they think it's going to help them out. So, tying this back, I'll even make it personal, by the way. Um, my great wake up call to market liberalization was the minimum wage. Milton Friedman, when he explained the the pains that the minimum wage causes. I always thought minimum wage was a good thing, a fundamentally good thing. It guaranteed a standard quality of life. But when you are on the outs, as many people are, right? The world is a pyramid, and you know the farther you go up in the social hierarchy, the smaller and smaller that group get. You're on the outside, and pretty much the only real leverage you have outside of compromising yourself is money. So if I am on the outside, I said I come from a humble background, and I'm competing with someone that comes from maybe a better background or background similar to the employer, when he sees both of us and we both are being hired at the minimum wage, right? Because there's a minimum wage. I say the minimum wage is like $5 an hour. That equalizes us in the eyes of a minimum wage, but in the eyes of the employer, that has caused a discrepancy, right? He sees more value in the candidate that he has a higher affinity to. He likes him, it reminds him of his son, it reminds him of a friend, it reminds him of himself when he was younger. You know, now if you remove that minimum wage, I can say, this guy, he's fancy. He comes from a higher economic background, but this job doesn't require that. I can do X, Y, and Z at a lower cost. And I'll come in at $250 instead of $5. And the guy would come in at $5 because he has a high standard of himself, my competitor. And the employer will be faced. Do I hire the guy I want for $5? Or do I make myself richer and keep an extra $2.50 an hour and hire this guy who is not like me, but he can get the job done for a cheaper price? And a lot of times in society, a lot of times in society, the employer or the buyer would choose the cheaper option. So this is really the greatest way to ascend. It's the quickest way. It's the most honest way to ascend. The economic factor, because once I get the job, now I can learn. Now I can see how the employers think. I can pick up habits. I can see how the business is structured. Now I have learned skills. I gave up a little. I gave him $2.50 an hour. But now I'm skilled now. So I can take those skills and do something on my own, or I can try to leverage those skills to get a raise, a promotion, or go to another company. But if I never came in at a lower price, I would have never got that job at all. Okay, so bringing it back to the camels. Actually, I want to do one more story to drive this point home, and this is going to lay this up. I was watching a documentary one time in Africa about, I couldn't remember. I want to say elephants. The ivory hunting, and the ivory from the elephant tusk. And it was a South African gentleman. I want to say, I'm not sure, but he was of European descent, so I'm assuming he was South African or Zimbabwe. So he was talking about how the restrictions on the ivory trade have actually been a detriment to the elephant. Much like the restrictions in India on this camel trade has been a detriment. It has dwindled the numbers of the camels down. There's no slaughtering of the camel, and in Africa there was no slaughtering of the elephant. It was illegal. And do you know what that did? It pretty much brought the animals to the endangered species list. And you know why? Because people lost their utility. That is the point I'm trying to make. It's all about the individual interest. And these different anecdotal situations drive a fundamental factor home. Logic, although we preach logic and it's good to be philosophical to maintain your bearings in tumultuous times, logic comes secondary to one's interest. And I've seen on numerous occasions people with interest adjust their logic to fit their interest. I want to vote for the candidate make me feel good. So let's vote for the minimum wage because it makes me feel good. I want to tell people I voted for the minimum wage candidate because I want people to think that I want others to have a standard quality of living. Instead of ripping that out and say, look, you get a job or you get a job, open the field up to competition and get rid of the minimum wage. I want to protect the elephants. Let's put a law that say don't kill the elephants. Now people have no reason to keep them alive. Before the gentleman in Africa, the South African said, if you want these elephants to flourish, let us hunt them. And it was a fact. If you have people that want to hunt the elephant, if they're people who are going to open up plantations full of elephants if the price is right. Think about prohibition. Prohibition pretty much created the mob in America. But if alcohol was never illegal, because high-minded people, just because you make it illegal don't mean people stop doing it, because people have their desires and their needs. So these are just a couple of examples that I wanted to tell you because this is one of the great lessons in life. If you want to influence people, if you want to understand people, you have to monitor their interests and ignore their logic. The logic, do not appeal to them on any logic. The logic is irrelevant. I've seen plenty of people do great logical arguments. America has done a lot of heinous things, but people still wave flags and practice patriotism because they have jobs. So all of that means nothing if you can't employ your people. You could be the most benevolent country in the world, nice as can be. But if your people can't earn a living, they're going to throw you out of office. Why do you think so many African countries are corrupt? They're not really corrupt. People got to eat. And if you put a leader there that's going to stop people from eating because he's high-minded and he's a moral leader, how long do you think it's going to last in that society? People elect who they think can get them fed, first and foremost. So that's my thoughts. Let me hear yours. Comment below. Like, share, subscribe if you enjoy the content. Until next time, take care. Pantu up.